Phil Steele Plus tour for October 14th. You know, the purpose of this tour is to show you how to use Phil Steele Plus to its fullest. I know a lot of you are members. If you're an Inside the Press Box member, you get it for free. But how about these selections, huh? Another winning week last week for the selections, going 3-2-1. And the quick hitters are even outdoing the selections. And the amazing thing is, I put my very best selections in Inside the Press Box. Then I take my next level of them, which is the actual 6 selections we given out each week. And those are 19, 11, and 1 on the season. 63% winners. And then I choose the quick hitters at the end, and the quick hitters are doing the best of all. 17 and 8, 68% the last 5 weeks. You got to love it. All right, well, we got a bunch of games to cover. As always, we've got 11 games. Take you a little bit through a tour of the website, show you how to use it to its fullest. You know, one thing that I just discovered this week, I've been struggling with logging into the website, and you have to click button membership. Membership is like 4 logins. Just take this page right here and bookmark this one. When you bookmark it here, you get your access to the team pages, FBS information, FCS information, NFL information. Yeah, we've got complete NFL information on all the teams. Right now, you can take a look here. You've got the updated red, green for every team. Stats all the way back to 2010. So if you do want NFL information, I'll start putting NFL plays up pretty soon, but honestly, I don't follow the NFL. I follow college football. That's what I do. 365 days of the year is college football. But you've got your individual stat leaders. If you're in a fantasy league, you'll enjoy that. You can go back and see how they did against the team last year here with the individual stat leaders. All that information at your fingertips on the NFL. But just bookmark this page right here. I'm going to click on it now. We go back to it. Team pages, injuries, transfers. We're going to hit on some of these topics in here and show you how to use these as well. But let's get to your first selection. We're going to take a look at Iowa State against Texas this week. Texas sure was impressive last week, weren't they? 49-0. That win over West Virginia looks good. They've got a high-flying offense now that Quinn Ewers is back. We can take a look at the individual stats there. You see that Quinn Ewers started against ULM and against Bama, was doing well, got injured. It was Hudson Card the next 3 games, and now it's back to Quinn Ewers, and 21-31, 289-4-1. Very impressive. But you also know we used Iowa State here on the tour last week. They had a narrow loss, a 1-point loss to Kansas State. They were getting 2, got the cover for us. Appreciate that, Iowa State. That moves Matt Campbell's record. And I showed you last week that once October turns around, he usually struggles in September. And once October turns around, it's always something like 3-1 or 4-0 against the spread in the month of October. You know, we went back in 2019. We went back in 19, 18. All this is at your fingertips for every team. But anyway, the record is now 30-9 against the spread in the month of October for Matt Campbell. But I got another one for you for Matt. And that is, he does great as a dog. I had Todd put this one together for you. This is, of course, our last 25 years update. And I said, Todd, can you give me Matt Campbell as a double-digit dog since he's been there? And so here they are. And as you could tell right here, now this tells you whether the team won or lost the game. So Matt Campbell as a double-digit dog is just 1-9 straight up. Red means that you lose the game. Green means that you win the game. But the spread over here, green means you covered the game, and red means you lost the game against the spread. The only game he's lost as a double-digit dog was back in his first year, 2016, at Texas. A 27-6 loss as a 14-point dog. Here, a 20.5-point dog, only lost by 10. 17 lost by 7, lost by 3. 24 lost by 21. 1 outright here, 3-point loss, 10-point loss, 1-point loss. All easy covers. 9-1 against the spread as a double-digit dog. So thanks, Todd, for putting that together for you. I thought I'd show you how Matt Campbell does do as a double-digit dog. And if you look at the series, Iowa State and Texas, this is available on every team, naturally. You get the last 25 years matchups at your fingertips. You can see right here, Iowa State's won the last 3 meetings straight up. They're 2-1 against the spread, but I mean, hell, they're 17-point dog here. This series also tends to go under. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 unders here in the series. Once again, if this is green, that means the team won the game, so they've won 3 in a row straight up. You don't even have to look at the score. It automatically tells you. And once again, do you have to do the math and see if they covered or not? No. Green means they covered, and you can see Iowa State covers a good portion of these games. So you've got an Iowa State team under Matt Campbell that plays great in the month of October. They're a team that does well as a double-digit dog, and they've won 3 in a row against Texas. Texas, meanwhile, is off this huge game, the Red River rivalry against Oklahoma, and they have got Oklahoma State on deck, an undefeated Oklahoma State right now. Oklahoma State's got a big showdown. It's just a bit of a sandwich spot as well. Add it all up, your first play this week, we're going to go with Iowa State plus 17 over Texas. That's Iowa State plus 17 over Texas. All right, next game we're going to look at, we're going to put Memphis on the left, and we are going to put East Carolina on the right. East Carolina's a 5-point favorite. I like to put the home team on the right and the visitor on the left. When we take a look at this matchup here, East Carolina has been a spread darling for me on inside the press box. I have used them a lot. If you go back and take a look at last year, and not wild about this type style down here, that's going to get fixed eventually. We'll get back to this type style, which we used to use, but some of the early ones got put into this smaller type style, which makes it tougher to read, but we're going to get that corrected. Anyway, last year I used them against Marshall, I used them against Tulane, I used them against UCF, I used them against Houston, used them against USF, Temple, Memphis, and look at that. They delivered for me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 straight wins against the spread. That I used them on inside the press box. And I'll say this, I used them against NC State, a win. I used them against Old Dominion, a win. But I used them against Navy, a loss. Used them against USF, a win. And used them against Tulane, a loss. So 3-2 this year. And since they've lost 2 of the last 3, I didn't put them on inside the press box this week. They've been my money machine. They won for me 7 times last year. They've already won 3 times this year. East Carolina's a good team. And a couple things we'll look at this breakdown. It's not just automatic, let's use East Carolina. And inside the press box has really benefited from East Carolina. But we could take a look at the series. And so let's take a look at the series first. We'll click on this. You get the last 25 years matchups. Once again, East Carolina's 8-2 straight up. And look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12-2 against the spread. So East Carolina does extremely well against Memphis in this series. 8-2 straight up, 12-2 against the spread. And last year when they played, you can go back and look at it. I watched this one. We used it as mentioned. They were a dog. They should have won outright. While at the half, they led 16-13 with a 283, 153-yard edge. It was even better than that. They gave up like a 95-yard pass. They had an 18-4 first down edge at the half last year against Memphis, and that was on the road. And if you follow Memphis, you know Memphis plays much better at home than they do on the road. Look at last year. Home win, home win. They did lose this game at home. Home win, home win. They did lose this game to East Carolina and a home win down here. But on the road, Ryan Silverfield is 1-9 against the spread as an away dog and just 3-7 on the road. Look here, road loss, road loss, road loss. They did beat Navy but didn't cover that game. So that is 1-3 straight up on the road there. On the road here, they beat Arkansas State by 5. I don't believe they covered that game. Let's see if they covered that game. All you have to do is click here, last 40 years results. As you can see, these are better. And in 2020 or 2021 at Arkansas State, they were minus 5.5. So didn't cover there. At Temple didn't cover. At Tulsa didn't cover. At Houston didn't cover. 2021 at Tulane didn't cover. At Navy didn't cover. That's what this win-loss is here. It tells you if they covered or not. At Cincy didn't cover. At SMU didn't cover. So Ryan Silverfield has struggled on the road with Memphis. East Carolina has got a great home crowd now. Remember when Ruffin McNeil was the head coach? And if you click here on the last 40 years results and go back down to all the way to the bottom, this tells you when the coaches were. They had a great home field from 2010 to 2015. That sort of went away here when they went 3-9, 3-9, they were 3-9, 4-8, 3-6, 5 straight losing seasons. The home field edge is coming back for East Carolina, and that's good to know. But you got who the coach was. Did you know Skip Holtz was the coach of East Carolina from 05 to 9? John Thompson, Steve Logan, Bill Lewis. You've got all that at your fingertips. Complete records, what they did, where they finished in the conference. That's on every single team, all 131. As I mentioned, I built this website. It's for me. I want information I can look up in a second on anything I want to know about any team, and it's all here on my website, Phil Steele Plus. So anyway, you've got East Carolina, which is a solid home team against a very poor road team. As I mentioned, Silverfield 1-9 against the spread, 3-7 straight up. You know, these two teams have played equal schedules, and this is something we'll go here. You can go to strength of schedule, and we're going to update these every week now. So if you look for East Carolina, my computer analyzes the whole thing. It's got East Carolina with the number 84 schedule, and Memphis is number 72. So as you can tell, they're pretty close schedule-wise as to who they've played. Notre Dame, by the way, has played the number 1 toughest schedule so far. But for two teams that have played equal schedules, Memphis is minus 2 yards per game. East Carolina's plus 104 yards per game. That means East Carolina's a better team. And if you look at them on the AGG, once again, you've got East Carolina playing to 100.2 level. They're at 94. That says East Carolina by 6. Add in a 4-point home edge. Could almost be a 5-point home edge because Memphis is a poor road team. You've got a clear AGG advantage, East Carolina, in this one as well. So you've got the series history. East Carolina's 8-2 straight up, 12-2 against the spread. Last year they dominated at Memphis. And last week, while East Carolina didn't cover for me, if you go through the game against Tulane, and you can click right here, by the way, the box score pops up. I want to thank Ted Ganji over at collegepressbox.com for letting us just go automatically to his site and download his box scores each and every week. East Carolina actually led that thing 9-7. They had in the game, East Carolina missed an extra point, missed a field goal, got intercepted in the end zone, had another interception, and got stopped on downs twice. So if you go here to the drive-by-drive chart, and I go through the play-by-play of every single game. You'll notice in Inside the Press Box sometimes I almost give you a drive chart game by game of what happened just so you can get into it. But here, field goal, touchdown. This field goal they missed. It's a field goal attempt. This is an interception in the end zone after a 70-yard, 8-play drive. This is an interception, and their last 2 drives got stopped on downs after 48 and 58-yard drives. So they moved the ball. They actually had the yardage edge against Tulane, 419 to 391. Just had some plays go awry last week. Now they're back at home, and they need a win, and they've got the home crowd against a poor road team, and they have the series history, and East Carolina's been my money machine for 2 years. Let's go with the Pirates, -5 over Memphis. I tell you what, they cover against Memphis this week. Don't expect to see them back here again next week. They'll probably be back on Inside the Press Box where they've been a money machine, although they're playing a pretty good UCF team next week. So your second play, lock it in. We're going to go with East Carolina -5 over Memphis. All right, let's go to the Ohio-Western Michigan game. Now, we lost the total last week, guys. Totals are 1-1 on the year. But this one jumped out at me. The total is 58.5. And this is a total where I looked at it and I said, Ohio and Eastern Michigan, that total should be probably 67. And so that got me looking at it. And then I started drilling into it. And that's what you can do. The beautiful thing about Phil Steele Plus, you can drill into any game you want. Just line up one team on each side here and drill in. Look at all the things you want to find out. And here's what I found out when I was drilling into this one. First of all, Ohio U this year, they played Penn State. And they played Iowa State. Now, those are 2 pretty good defenses. Let's go back to this. And here's a nice feature of Phil Steele Plus. You can go to the offensive or defensive YPG versus opponent average. So if you look at Iowa State, they are actually holding opponents to 149.4 yards per game below their season average. If you take a look at Penn State, They are on here as well. Penn State is holding opponents. Let's see if I can find. Did I pass Penn State? I had to have. They've got to be up here somewhere. Well, you could look at the chart and find them. I'm not going to waste your time looking for them, but I'm sure Penn State. Let's see. Penn State. They are holding opponents to 76 yards per game below their season average, number 23. So a couple of top 25 defenses holding opponents below their season average. So I'm going to throw those two games out. Let's look at how Ohio's done in their other games. How about 41 points, 59 points? They had 450 yards, but only 24 points against Kent and 55 here. So in the 4 games where they're not playing a top 25 defense, they are averaging 44.7 points per game. The total is 58.5. They're also averaging 545 yards per game. Meanwhile, let's look at their defense. I love the red and green. As things just jump right out to you. And look at the red on Ohio's defense. They are poor against the run, giving up 4.9 yards per kill play. They're giving up 72%. They're giving up almost 400 yards per game passing. So they give up a lot of yards, a lot of points. And look at this. They are number 131 in college football, allowing opponents 137 yards above their season average. So we expect Ohio to score 40 points in a game. We expect their defense to probably allow close to 40 points a game. They're giving up 41 points per game on defense this year. And when they're not playing Penn State and Ohio State, they're averaging 40 points per game. So Ohio is an over team. We've got that. Now, Western Michigan is more of an under team. If you look at their numbers, they are minus 86 yards per game on offense. But once again, they took on Pitt's defense. They took on San Jose State's defense. Those are two really good defenses. They took on a Power 5 team, Michigan State, a ranked team on the road. Now let's look at the 3 games that aren't Power 5 teams or San Jose. They put up 37 against Ball State, 44 against New Hampshire, and 23 last week against Eastern Michigan. So in those 3 games, they are gaining 34.6 points per game on offense. They're taking on a defense that's given up 137 above. They should get 437. They should score 30, 35, 40 points in this game, and it's a must-win game at home for them. Their defense is actually allowing opponents 34 yards above their season average, 48 in conference play. You do that here, and Ohio's gaining 554 yards. How about the last 2 times these teams have met? Well, let's go click on that and take a look. Last year, this one had 71 points. The year before that, how about 73 points? So the last 2 years have both been in the 70s. I expected this to be a high 60s. The total on the game is 58.5. Scratching my head over where they put the total there. Let's go with over 58.5 in the Ohio-Western Michigan game this week. All right, we got some more big ones in store for you. You know, a quick note, though, for you about Press Box. We ran a Press Box special last week. As you know, inside the Press Box is $20 a week, and that's a deal because when you get inside the Press Box, you get my write-up on every game. You get my computer's forecast on every game. That's yards passing, yards rushing, points on every single game, my complete write-up on every game. And there are 54 games. So, I mean, it's $20 a week. That's a great deal. You can go there and get the issue for $20. But there are still 8 issues left. It's $160. Is subscription price right now. If you go to Phil Steele, the store at philsteele.com, it's $129. Put in this code, PressBox Plus. You will get the final 8 issues, $160 value for just $99. But here's the beautiful thing, guys. If you subscribe to Inside the Press Box, you get Phil Steele Plus for free. Now, if you just want Phil Steele Plus, it's $89 right now. That's a great deal because that takes you through the Super Bowl. $89. You could be doing this every week yourself. Line up each game you want to look at. Put one on the left, one on the right. You've got everything at your fingertips. I am actually discounting that $10 right now. It's $99 on the site, but if you put in PressBox Plus, you get it for $89. However, you get my college newsletter for the rest of the season for $99, and that gets you Phil Steele Plus for the rest of the year. The NFL went 1-1 last week, but still a really good record in the NFL over 2 years. There are a lot of issues left there. 13 issues, $240, still $99. If you the postseason, which is all the bowls and the playoffs, is $79. You get everything wrapped up here in the pigskin package for $199. Your code, type it in, PressBox Plus, or give our offices a call. Our friendly staff will get you all set up, 866-918-7711. Just say PressBox Plus. I took the Phil Steele tour. store. I want my discounted prices, and you got them. But don't miss out. Phil Steele Plus, just $89 for the year. Inside the press box, 8 issues, $160 value, $99. Plus, you get Phil Steele Plus for free. The code is PressBoxPlus. All right, let's get to our 4th game here. And we're going to take a look at Nebraska-Purdue. And I'm going to do something I haven't done ever on the tour. I'm giving you a money line play, guys. A money line play. Now, for those of you that are new to gambling, you might not understand the money line. The money line is saying that you want the team to win outright. Right now, Nebraska's playing Purdue. They're a 14-point dog. But how the money line works is, let's say Nebraska loses by 3. You lose on the money line because they didn't win outright. However, if Nebraska wins outright, right now at FanDuel, Nebraska is plus 430. So you would actually get $430 for your $100 wager on that. It's basically 4-1. So here's how we're going to count it now. If Nebraska covers, you lose, but loses the game, this is a loss for the records for the Phil Steele Plus Tour. However, if Nebraska wins this game, and I'll give you the reasoning in a minute, you actually get 4 wins because it's plus 430. I'm going to just round it off and make it plus 400. So you get 4 wins if Nebraska wins. Now, they're a 14-point dog. They're expected to lose. Odds are they will lose. But if they win, you actually pick up 4 wins here because I'm telling you, don't play them plus the 14. Play it on the money line plus 430. Now, here's why I like Nebraska on the money line. Let's take a look at the series, Nebraska-Purdue. And this is one of my favorite columns over here, the upset column. If you look the last 7 times these teams have played, there have been 5 upsets. Now, a red upset means that Nebraska was upset. A green upset, Nebraska pulled the upset. So 5 upsets in the last 7 years. This is an upset series. In fact, last year, take a little drink there. Last year, this was a key selection in my Inside the Press Box. I used Purdue. They were plus 7.5, and guess what? They pulled the outright upset, 28-23, a very nice win. So I was on Purdue last year in this series, and they got the outright upset. That was an Inside the Press Box selection. Now, let's take a look at Jeff Brom as the head coach of Purdue. Guess what? He's a great dog. We've seen that the last 2 weeks. You look at the last 2 weeks, they upset Minnesota, they upset Maryland. But let's take a look how he does as a home favorite. Once again, we'll click on Purdue here. We'll click on the last 40 years results. Home favorite against Indiana, they won. Against Michigan State, that's a dog. Favorite against Minnesota, lost outright. So that's 1 outright upset as a favorite. This one they won outright, and that one they won. So only 1 upset there. How about Nebraska? -2, lost outright. Rutgers, -11, lost outright. That's 3 outright upsets the last 3 years as a home favorite. Let's come back here. Illinois, -9.5, lost outright. That's 4. Let's keep rolling here. See if here's a home favorite against Vanderbilt, 1 outright. Home favorite. No, that's an away favorite. Okay, let's go here. Wisconsin, -4, lost outright. That's 5. Iowa, they won that game. Ohio State, dog. Boston College, dog. Missouri, dog. Eastern Michigan, -16.5, lost outright. That's 6. Northwestern, -1.5, lost outright. That's 7. Indiana, they won. Illinois, Nebraska, -5, lost outright. That's 8 times in the last 6 years that Jeff Brom has lost outright as a home favorite. And guess what? If you go back and look at Western Kentucky, I did. I'm not going to take up your time and do it, but he lost 2 other games as a home favorite outright at Kentucky. That's 10 times Jeff Brom has lost outright as a home favorite. 5 upsets in the last 7 meetings. Purdue's off 2 big road upsets, and they've got Wisconsin on deck. It's a flat spot for them, taking on Nebraska. Add it all up, we're taking Nebraska on the money line. Now, once again, if Nebraska covers but they don't win the game, it's a loss for this. But if they win the game outright, that's 4 wins because they're plus 400. First time we've given you a money line. Let's see how it works for us this week. Well, let's take a look at Hawaii, Nevada. And this is another similar type of game. We're not going to use the money line on this because I think it's pretty attractive, the spread. Hawaii is at home plus 6.5. Now, I mentioned press box, and it's $99 for the rest of the year when you use that code word. press box gives you this on every game. And I don't even look at the game until I look at my computer's forecast. My computer's dead on. You ever go to the front of the magazine where it projects the stats for the season and then look at them at the end of the year? That's on page 43. You'd be amazed how close these stats are, and that's predicting the season. What I do is I take my computer, load in all the opponents. It predicts every single game and then gives you the yardage for the year. And it's amazing. Well, guess what? It does the same thing. If you went and took your Inside the Press Box newsletter and circled every time you came within 25 yards rushing or 25 yards passing or 3 points, you would have circles all over your page. Well, this is one of those games that we've been pretty successful with here on the tour. I mean, you don't go 19-11-1 without being successful, but we've been using my computer calls for the underdog to outgain the favorite. And here it's calling for Hawaii. They have a 389 to 355 yard edge. Bingo. We got to play. What you could do, you could just thumb through the press box and look for the ones that it has an underdog that to outgain the favorite. Just play those right off the thing, and you'd have a great record for the year. So as you can see, my computer says Hawaii's going to outgain Nevada. Let's take a little closer look at Nevada. Let's drill into that a little bit. Now, they opened up 2-0. You see these 2 wins here? But guess what? They were +5 and +4 in turnovers. They actually got outgained in each game. Since then, they've lost to Incarnate Word by 14. The Iowa game would have been a worse final. We used that here on the tour. We used Iowa minus the points, and it was an easy winner. That game got delayed by the rain like 5 times. It ended about 2:30 in the morning. Iowa just basically wanted to get out of the game, or they could have won by more. They lost to Air Force by 28, and last week they took on a beleaguered Colorado State team. Let's go take a look at Colorado State real quick, just so you can see. When you look at Colorado, and I love doing this, you can have this at your fingertips with Phil Steele Plus. Look at Colorado State. They were horrible. They're just getting blown out by everybody. They got blown out by Sacramento State. They rise up and beat Nevada last week. So you have a Nevada team that's not very good. Now, Hawaii's struggling. There is no doubt about it. And we called that in the magazine. I said, you know what? Hawaii is number 128 on my experience chart in the magazine, and they have a new head coach. They're going to struggle. It's going to be a rough year for them. But guess what? Nevada's number 131 on my experience chart with a new head coach. So you've got a team that's in even worse shape than Hawaii is, and they're laying 6.5 points here at Hawaii. Hawaii played a pretty good first half against Vanderbilt. If you go back and look at the box score of that game, Hawaii actually led, and if you look at I want to show you a little something. I was watching that game. The first quarter, let's see if we got first quarter stats. 7-5 first downs in the first quarter. The yards were 134, 114. They played Vanderbilt even, then they sort of melted in the second half. Same thing with Western Kentucky. They played a good first half against them. They were down 21-10, melted in the second half. Playing Michigan on the road, that's not bad. They beat Duquesne at home. The New Mexico State game, if you look at the yards, there was actually 411 to 438. Yeah, that was a bad game. It was on the road. It's not Hawaii. It's a long trip, playing in altitude, all that. Last week, I was impressed. They played San Diego State on the road, and let's take a quick glance at that game at the box score. And once again, all this at your fingertips. Just click and you've got it right there. Hawaii led this thing 14-13. San Diego State drives down and gets a field goal with 7 seconds left. Now that's San Diego State, for crying out loud, which has been a dominant team in the Mountain West, and they needed a field goal to beat them by 2. So Hawaii is starting to get their sea legs going. They're starting to play better. They're at home. My computer says they're the better team, or yardage-wise, has the yardage edge here. And if you look at this, Hawaii minus 33 yards per game on offense, Nevada minus 105. Shager is actually the guy that played against Nevada last year. Nate Cox is not. Illingsworth, remember, was the Oklahoma State transfer, so you expected big things out of him. He's been banged up. Nate Cox has been the starter and struggling, 20 of 42 last week. I think the yards are off there. Yeah, you see, Todd will get that corrected. Last week he was 20 of 42 for 244 yards. Our individual player stats are showing them with 24 yards. That's a typo. They'll get that corrected. That'll get the years things up. But as you can tell, I think Hawaii might even be the better team, and they're a 6.5-point dog. And as you know, traveling to Hawaii is a big thing. And if you look at the series, I mentioned that we can click on the series. Look at the upsets over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 upsets in the last 6 years, and Hawaii's a dog. So you got, and here's another thing I want you to look at. the home team. Now, if the word is win, that means the home team won straight up. If the color is green, that means the home team covered. Well, the home team is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 5 straight up the last 22 years, which figures. Nevada plays in this time of year, colder weather, in the altitude, Hawaii, long trip on the islands. Hawaii's got that big home field edge built in anyway. Add it all up, I like Hawaii, plus 6.5. So does my computer. It's an inside the press box. Dog will outgain the favorite game. Take Hawaii, plus 6.5. All right, I like to tuck in an FCS game, and we got a FBS versus FCS game to tuck in here. It's going to be Army taking on Colgate. Now, you remember Colgate. We went with Holy Cross a couple weeks back and won that one 35-10. So that's a 25-point win. That was Holy Cross at Colgate, by the way. This is Army at home. And I did a couple radio shows, and I had some folks say during the radio show, well, Army's a really poor team. Not really. I mean, they played Coastal Carolina, tough, lost by 10. UTSA, they lost in overtime by 3. They took on an FCS team. Now, there's a difference in FCS teams, guys. If you look at Colgate, they play in a Patriot League. Patriot League's non-scholarship. You take a look at Villanova. Villanova is one of the best teams in the FCS. They get to the playoffs every year. They beat Villanova, Army did, 49-10. They just drilled them. They needed a win. They were at home. They got it. They played Georgia State. They did lose by 17 at home, but that's a game. They were down 17. They played a really good second half. They just got stopped on downs and turned it over a bunch of times. And that turned into a 17-point loss. And then last week, Wake Forest, same thing, stopped on downs a bunch of times, turned it over. But Wake Forest, a pretty good team. All 4 of those teams are decent teams. And now Army's in a desperate situation. They're at home, off these losses. They need a win, much like they were against Villanova. If we take a look here and you click on Colgate, you get how Army does against FCS teams. And as you can see, Army's won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11 in a row. The games they haven't covered, they've been a 32.5-point favorite, and they won by 29. This one against the Citadel, that was option against option, I believe. Option versus option, so you expected it to be a lower scoring game. The Morgan State game, they won by 31 and didn't cover a 45-point spread. So as you could tell, they usually win and win big. Bucknell, 63-10. Abilene Christian, they won by that. To me, the most impressive one is this, though. Villanova, and if you don't follow FCS, I'm telling you, Villanova is one of the premier teams in the country every year, and they beat them by 39. This is Colgate. They lost to Stanford by 31. They did beat Maine, but they were outgained in that game by 109 yards. They lost to Penn by 11, Holy Cross by 25 at home, and Cornell, a weak Ivy League team, beat them by had 91-yard edge in this 3-point loss. So you've got a Colgate team that's playing at a 58.7 level against an Army team playing at a 91 level. That right there is a 33-point difference. Factor in the 4-point home edge, you're looking at a 37-point difference. The number on this is 28.5. And let's see how Colgate does against FBS teams. And that's right here. Colgate, now here is different. This, we don't have FCS in our last 25 years, so down here, if you see green, that means Colgate lost the game. If you see green here, that means Colgate did not cover. They lost to Boston College 51-0, Air Force by 41, Army by 14, Buffalo by 23, Syracuse by 26, and Navy by 38. So Colgate was 0-6 against the spread versus FBS. Army does great against the FCS. We used Holy Cross on the Phil Steele Plus tour. You won with Holy Cross over Colgate in that 35-point win. The quarterback for Colgate, Michael Brescia, 45% completions, 0-3 ratio this year. That doesn't mean a lot of offense coming for Colgate. They only average 259 yards per game, 120 yards per game below opponent's average. Army's defense has usually been pretty strong. If you look at Army's defense here through the years, they've got the same defensive coordinator. They're a defense that's been beat up a little bit. Wake Forest is going to beat up a lot of defenses, even scored a lot on Clemson. So I think Army's defense is looking for that shutout this week. They've got the potential taking on this low offense. We're only laying 28.5 points. We're off 3 losses. We beat Bucknell in that situation last year. If you go back here, off 3 losses. They got past Air Force. So you might have said a flat spot. No, they beat Bucknell 63-10. Held them to 175 yards last year. So add it all up. I like Army minus 28.5. My AGG actually over the last 4 weeks has Army by 41.6. Take Army minus 28.5. All right, let's get to those quick hitters. You love the quick hitters. I love the quick hitters. So we've got a couple FCS games for you. And, once again, I don't follow FCS that closely. I don't watch the games. But this makes you an instant expert on the FCS. And the FCS has been pretty good to the Phil Steele Plus Tour. We got New Hampshire traveling to face Dartmouth this week. And Dartmouth's been a pretty good Ivy League team. If you go back here and take a look, a lot of green here. See all these wins? They're a good Ivy League team. See all these wins? One loss each of the last 2 years. This year, Dartmouth is not playing up to that level. They beat Valpo 35-13. Valpo's not a great team. They went into Sacred Heart and lost this year 38-31. They lost to Penn at home, and they lost to Yale on the road. They're actually minus 7 yards per game, and that includes that Valpo game. So in Ivy League play, they're minus 122 yards per game. They are not up to last year's standards. Their quarterback last year was Derek Kyler, hit 71% with a 17-1 ratio. As you can tell, he is gone. The new quarterback, Dylan Cadwalder, they use Howard as a Wildcat quarterback. That's why he leads the team in rushing. Caldwell is a 2-1 ratio this year. So they lost their guy that hit 17 touchdowns and 1 interception. And as you could tell, they haven't been playing as well. Meanwhile, New Hampshire, if you go back and take a look at them, they only had one spring game. Okay, so they were at a deficit with the one spring game, and they opened up 3-0, and they had a bad 2021 year. Things didn't go well for them. But they've been playing much better this year. Max Brosmer, their starting quarterback, has an 11-4 ratio. Dylan Lobby's run for 573 yards. I like that because their top running back, 291 yards. So we've got the better running back, better quarterback. How about defense? They're minus 3 yards per game. Meanwhile, New Hampshire is actually plus 5 yards per game. So we got the better defense as well, holding opponents to 355 yards per game. And for New Hampshire, they beat Monmouth. And, one thing I wanted to show you. You can get the last 5 years logs on every FCS team right here. As you can tell, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. I don't know if it's updated yet, but it should be very soon. Let me look at the college ATS logs. FCS ATS logs are coming soon. We'll have these by next week. And you will actually have the spread on every game from this week for them. We do have the college ATS logs here updated for you for this year, but I'll get to that in a minute. But we will have the FCS logs. They may even be updated today, for crying out loud. So when you go to your Phil Steele Plus today, go here, click on your logs, see if they're updated today. Anyway, they beat Monmouth. Monmouth's been a pretty good team. They beat them by 10. They beat Albany. Now, Albany's not very good, but they beat them by 5. And once again, when you're looking at scores, you could go take a look at Albany and say, okay, they're not a good team. That's not an impressive win. NC Central, which is projected to win their division, they lost by 18. But then they beat Towson by 23. They lost to Western Michigan, and they beat Stony Brook 24-14. So this is a New Hampshire team that's been playing better than expected. You can take a look at their AGG on this game. And for New Hampshire, they're playing at a 65.6 level, and Dartmouth is playing at a 60 level. Now, Dartmouth is a 7-point favorite in this game. So this is the AGG is saying New Hampshire's the better team and wins the game outright on the road. The last 4 weeks says they're the better team, wins the game outright on the road. And New Hampshire is getting 7 points in this game. So add it all up, I think we got the better quarterback, better running back, better defense, playing better. I like New Hampshire. Plus 7 over Dartmouth this week. Let's take a look at another FCS game. And I'm really anticipating those logs when they come up. That's going to be pretty neat. But we're going to look at Davidson against Morehead State. And I'd be quite honest with you guys, I had no idea how these teams were even doing this year prior to spending time drilling into the teams last night with my Phil Steele Plus. So you got Morehead State on one side, and you've got Davidson on the left. Did I know who Davidson's quarterback was yesterday or last night? I didn't until I went on the site and found they got 2 quarterbacks playing. They're hitting 59% of their passes with the 7-0 ratio, so they're doing okay. You can click on the individual stats and see both quarterbacks played in both games. Now, in the last game, it was mostly Waddle taking over against St. Thomas. St. Thomas was picked high in this conference, and it was an upset loss. When you look at the logs, you'll see Davidson was favored in that game and lost by 11. So they're off a disappointing loss. But Davidson was a preseason favorite to win this conference. They play in the Pioneer. And the preseason favorite was doing well. Now, Jacksonville State, by the way, guys, if you don't know, I talked to Coach Rich Rod this year, went over the team with him because he'll be in the magazine next year. Jacksonville State's moving up. They've got increased scholarships. They're moving up to FES next year, and Rich Rod is their coach. They played a good game against them. They only got outgained by 26 yards. They beat Barton, big deal. Barton's Division II. They beat St. Andrews, big deal, Division II. They beat Presbyterian 56-24. Presbyterian's not a good team, but that's a team that Morehead State played against and only won by 4 last week. So they beat Presbyterian by 4. They beat Presbyterian by 32, and they beat Butler 31-0. Butler is probably in about the same shape that Morehead State is in this year. If you look at Morehead State, you get a complete write-up. You can see that Morehead State loses an experience. They are inexperienced at quarterback, running back, and receiver, and they're unlikely to match last year's successful season. Defensively, they use 5 of their top 7 tacklers. You get a complete FCS magazine with your Phil Steele Plus purchase. It's all right there. Complete magazine, a complete write-up on every position. You want to know how their linebackers are? There it is, a complete breakdown on everything about Morehead State that you need to know. You want history? This takes you back and lets you look at Morehead State since 2010. You can see everything at your fingertips. You want to know quarterbacks, individual stats from last year. How did Morehead State's players do? Well, Mark Pappas last year hit 24 of 44 against Davidson, and B.J. Bird had 7 catches for 126 yards. Okay, is B.J. Bird there? Nope. Bird last year at 1,300 yards receiving. He is not there this year. Quarterback Matt Pappas, 57% with a 28-19 ratio. He is not there this year. Their quarterbacks have a combined 8-8 ratio. So they beat Kentucky Christian, big deal. It's Division II. They got blown up by Montana State, blown up by Mercer, lost to Stetson by 8, and barely got past Presbyterian. They are playing at a level of 32.5. They are playing at a level, if you take a look at Davidson, a 50, so that says them by 18 plus the home edge. If you take a look at the last 4 weeks, 29, that's 24, and in the home edge, it's 27. I just think Davidson, the preseason pick to win their conference, off a loss. Last year, they were off a loss against Dayton. They beat Drake pretty handily. Let's see what they did the previous year. They're off a loss, preseason pick to win it, taking on a very beatable Morehead State team. My computer, I looked. We don't have any place where you can look at the computer forecasts. I can. My computer's got a 41-17. And then the main reason I like this one, and it's a quick hitter. I understand I'm taking up a little bit of your time, but take a look at this over here. Davidson this year, if he played about equal schedules, Davidson's averaging 82 yards above what their opponents allow. These guys are allowing 463 yards per game. Well, that's 544 yards. They're holding opponents to 95 yards per game below their season average. So if they hold them to 95 below, that's about 230 or 203 yards. And on the flip side, these guys are gaining 469 yards per game. They're allowing 144 yards per game above their season average. Once again, you're back up to the 544 mark. And defensively, they're only allowing 285 yards per game. Or no, they're allowing, 74 above. That puts you to the 544 mark. They are averaging 144 less than what their opponents allow. They're allowing 285. That comes out to 141 yards. So add those numbers together. You got Davidson with a 544 to 175 yard edge. I'm going to take Davidson. I'm going to lay the 16.5 against Morehead State. I'll try to be quicker with these next ones, but I just want to show off this site. It's so amazing. It's got everything you need. Let's go take a look at UAB against Charlotte. And guys, you love the red-green games, don't you? I've had them on here for years. This is a red-green game. Let's go to it. We got UAB as at home. Well, you guys already know that UAB at home is dynamic. They are super. 17-6-2 is a home favorite. They don't just win at home. They cover at home. You can love that about UAB. Last week, they played a good Middle Tennessee State team and beat them 41-14 at home. Look at this. They led 38-7 at the half with a 439 to 130 yard edge. Ouch. That's a good Middle Tennessee State team, one that beat Miami of Florida on the road. UAB crushes teams at home. We know that. Look at the magazine, flip through the magazine, look at those home games, look at the home records, and you'll see it right there. Now, this week, UAB is taking on Charlotte, and let's take a quick glance at Charlotte. I told you this is a red-green game. Here's the matchup I love. Look at Charlotte's rush defense. See this red? The red comes down here, 253 yards per game. They are giving up almost 6 yards per carry this year, guys, 5.8. That's a lot of red. Now, is UAB the type of team that can take advantage of that? I don't know. Let's take a look. How about Dwayne McBride? 641 yards, 7.4 yards per carry. Jermaine Brown, 378 yards, 7.1 yards per carry. UAB's averaging 237 yards per game on the ground, 5.9 yards per carry. The one game they lost, they couldn't run the ball against Rice. They can run the ball here. They can roll it up, as we saw against Middle Tennessee. So this is a red-green game. You have a UAB team that should dominate at the line of scrimmage. You have a Charlotte team that is 5-10 against the spread as an away dog. Flip to your magazine, take a look at Healy's record as an away dog, and add in this loss against FAU, this win, and this loss against South Carolina. Add it up, you got 5-10 against the spread as an away dog, against a great home favorite, a great run offense against a poor run defense. I love that matchup any day of the week, guys. You've got a defense that's holding opponents to 92 yards per game below their season average against one that's allowing 137 above, and the line's only 23.5. It's reasonable. If every time we run the football we're gaining 6 yards, I feel pretty good. I think McBride and Brown, if you have a fantasy football team, go ahead and put McBride on there. Put Brown on there. They both top 100 yards for this one. I like UAB minus 23.5 over Charlotte. Got another red-green game for you. And we're going to take a look at James Madison. They are on the road this week, and they're taking on Georgia Southern. And if you look at Georgia Southern, 3-3 this year. They're doing okay. They beat Nebraska on the road. And yet James Madison is laying 11.5 points. Well, I want to show you, first of all, this. If you go to the logs, once again, and we do have NFL logs as well. You want to know how the NFL teams are doing against the spread? It's all right there. There's your total on every game. We log everything like that. Here's your college logs. Let's go take a look at James Madison. Now, you know, looking at this, James Madison's 5-0. But how about the important number? Win, 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 win. How about 5-0 against the spread? They have won by 37, 56. They only won by 4 at App, but they were plus 6.5. They won by 27 here, and they won by 22 last week at Arkansas State. So you got a James Madison team that's 5-0 against the spread. Use these. Tells you about the hot streaks. You saw Kansas last week had their spread streak, and it also gives you ones that have a lot of losses. So it helps really keep track of it. So I love the logs. Use those. And while we're over here, let me go to the team page for a minute, just to show you the stuff that's out here. If you want to know players that are out for the year, you could circle them in your magazine right here. Completely up to date with your Phil Steele Plus. Strength of schedule, we showed you already. And this will be updated every single week during the year. And tells you the strength of schedule. One of your best strength of schedule plays this week, look at this. Auburn's taking on the number 10 schedule, and Ole Miss is taking on the number 106 schedule. That's not an official play, but I just thought I'd mention that. You've got an Ole Miss team that's taking on the 106 schedule against a team that's taking on the 10th toughest schedule. You've got the pass efficiency defense. This is updated. And remember, my pass efficiency defense takes into account the strength of opponents. So you can see Penn State's played some pretty good pass offenses here at 14.4. If you're taking on mostly run games, option type of teams, maybe an Air Force or a Navy, Army here, for example, is down here because possibly because of the opponents. Special teams rankings updated every week. Michigan was my number 1 team coming in, but Oklahoma State's at the top spot now, which is probably a reason why when you look at Oklahoma State, they're not impressive statistically, but they're damn impressive here on the special teams. So keep that in mind. Use this a lot, your special teams, because you get some big advantages. How about offense and defense YPG? Ohio State, their offense averages 223 yards per game above what opponents allow, 145. Their defense holds them below. They're number 1 right now. Georgia's 2. James Madison, the team we're talking about now, is number 3 at 318. Who's at the bottom? That would be my question. Akron, Florida International, Hawaii, Colorado State. So you can see down here, teams, Nevada, you'll notice, is also down here, along with that Hawaii, 147, going back to that Hawaii play. Fascinating. At your fingertips, you could just go through that column alone and come out with good plays for the week. This breaks down the offense and the defense. Strength of wins, pain of losses. This is interesting. You get credit for every FBS win of an opponent you defeat. And so the interesting thing here is a team like Middle Tennessee State's playing Western Kentucky this week. Western Kentucky has 3 wins. Let's go take a look at them. But their 3 wins total up to 1 FBS. Their opponents have won a total of 1 FBS game this week. Here they are, 3 FBS wins, but their opponents that they defeated have combined to be 1 FBS foe. So that's interesting. But at the top, we got Alabama. Their opponents have won 13 games, Ohio State 13, Clemson 12, Georgia 11. This thing is pretty neat during the course of the year, and you can use that each and every week to come up with some good plays for yourself. We've got power ratings. Look at that. It gives you a start and the current grade. That's my plus-minus power ratings that you have in the magazine, updated weekly. The Ypp Offense. These are teams that are putting up the most yards per play in a game. Tells you the potent offenses. And here, how about defense? These are the ones, hey, James Madison's number 1. That's defense average. Let's get out of that. The Ypp defense shows you Illinois is at the top, allowing just 3.7 yards per play. Bama 3.8, Iowa 3.8, Michigan 3.9, James Madison 4.0. I love these. Who's at the bottom? Charlotte, 7.8. Okay, that's cool. We went against Charlotte with the UAB play. They're giving up 7.8 yards per play. Colorado, 7.2. Remember that over on Ohio? They're giving up 7.2 yards per play. Every play an opponent runs, they gain 7.2 yards on them this season. So you got to love that. That's at your fingertips, all right down here. And the links in newspapers, if you want to go to the official sites, there they are for you. You don't have to look them up. We've got the official sites logged in. All that's available. Bookmark this page. You'll love it. And there, of course, the FCS information is here. The NFL information's there. All right, let's get this thing wrapped up. James Madison, Georgia Southern, red-green game I talked about. We have a Georgia Southern team that has been moving the ball on offense, but defensively they're allowing 78 yards above their opponent average. James Madison's D, I just showed you, 181 below opponent's average. Their offense, 138 above. In the logs, they're a perfect 5-0 against the spread. That defense is a major, major advantage here. You have got this team here, all green on offense, going against this team here, all red on defense. They're good on 5.6 yards per carry, 63% completions, and they don't get to the quarterback. They sack the quarterback on every 3.7. James Madison is sacking the quarterback on 13.2. They will get to the quarterback, and part of the reason Georgia Southern's been so successful, they're not giving up a lot of sacks. They'll give them up this week. And meanwhile, James Madison doesn't allow sacks. So I think Centeio's going to have a lot of time to throw. He's got a 15-1 ratio. Van Trees only has a 13-11 ratio. It is on the road. With James Madison's 5-0 against the spread. If they cover here, I'll have him back again next week. I like to play streaks. Play on a streak. You can win many times. You lose only once. Lock it in. It's a quick hitter on James Madison, minus 11.5. And your final one, we'll take a look at Penn State and Michigan. And we're going to put Penn State on the left, Michigan on the right. Penn State's a solid 7-point dog here against Michigan. And let's lock this one in. And once again, it's a quick hitter, so I won't go too deep into it. But let's take a look at the strength of schedule. And if we go to the FBS information, strength of schedule, where's that at? Strength of schedule. Let's find Penn State. Penn State is right here. They have taken on the number 45 schedule this year. Michigan, meanwhile, is down here. They have taken on the number 95 schedule. So you have a large strength of schedule play, Penn State over Michigan to begin with. They went into Purdue, came out with a win, went into Auburn. Now, Penn State is 4-1 against the spread as an away dog. And these aren't just any team they're playing. Once again, you could actually go back all the way to 1976 if you want and look up anything on Penn State. You want to know a spread? You know, what was the spread on Penn State-Stanford 1976? Well, they were 6.5-point favorite. They only won by 3. That was a long time ago, but it's at your fingertips. You could look anything up. Is this the largest that the team's been favored in the series? You could look it up right there. Of course, the series history you could look up right here. You just click on this. You get the last 25 years matchups at your fingertips. And in this one, you can see that the home team has actually not covered the last 3 games. Home team's on the visitor has covered 3 in a row in the series. Well, let's go back and look at Penn State on the road. At Michigan State, number 12 team in the country. Well, they were favored. At Maryland, at Ohio State, plus 19.5. They only lost by 9. They covered. At Iowa, plus 3.5. Or no, they were plus 1.5. That's the only game they didn't cover, a 3-point loss. In fact, the last 5 times they've taken on a ranked team on the road as a dog, they're 4-1 against the spread. That's their lone loss, a 3-point loss. So their average loss in these 5 games has been by 2 points. At Wisconsin, plus 5.5, number 12 team in the country, outright upset. At Michigan, +1, they covered 27-17. And at Ohio State, they lost by 11, getting 19. At Minnesota, they were favored. At Michigan State, they were favored. At Iowa, they were favored. By the way, they beat number 17 Iowa on the road there. Let's see. So anyway, they're 4-1 against the spread in games. They've all been ranked teams. The teams have been ranked 12, 3, 5, and 12, and they've only lost by 2 points per game. They're getting a full touchdown here. I'm going to take Penn State +7. So I took up some time today, but I really want to show you how to use Phil Steele Plus to its fullest. It is the site that I use when I'm doing a radio or TV show. I've got Phil Steele Plus. I got the 2 teams in front of me, and I'm rattling off numbers one after the other. I could tell you quarterbacks, running backs, yards rushing, yards passing, everything is at your fingertips. Don't forget, if you want to sign up for Phil Steele Plus, it is just $89 for the rest of the year. That takes you through the Super Bowl. Sign up for College Press Box. For $99, you get Phil Steele Plus for free. That'll do it. Let's hope we have another big winning week. 19-11-1 the last 5 weeks for our selections. Quick hitters, 17-8, 68% the last 5 weeks. Good luck to you this weekend, and I'll be back next week with another edition.